the UN had basically said that the internet is essential. It is a basic human right, which was a really, really interesting thing to say. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but Germany is taking their lead, and they are saying that the internet is not only a necessity, it is an essential part of life.
Oh, okay. Now, look. We make our living off the internet,
yes.
right? And I love the internet, and it's been good to us, right? Essential part of life. Look, and I'm the biggest defender of the United Nations there is, right? I think it's bringing the world together. It's imperfect in 100 different ways, but what did you expect? Like, oh, we'd bring all the countries of the world together, and everybody would get along perfectly, and they would agree on everything. No, of course not, right?
The United States can't even agree on everything.
Yeah, I mean, we got Mississippi still talking about neutralizing federal law. So now, at the same time, I can see how they get a little too liberal sometimes.
Well,
essential to human life? Come on.
Okay, so,
it's way outside the bounds of reason.
So, of course, if you don't really think about it deeply, it sounds a little ridiculous, but consider the number of, authoritarian governments that try to hold their people down, and how the internet gives these individuals the ability to
communicate with one another.
Not only communicate, but to mobilize protesters and really start revolution. So that's what you saw in Egypt. That's what you saw with the Arab Spring. So when I think about that scenario, these types of decisions make a lot of sense.
Yeah, look, and I'm sure that that's part of the reason that they went in that direction. And so if you call it an essential part of life, then you can say, hey, name a country, Iran, North Korea, China, whatever it might be. Hey, you're violating an essential human right by cutting off this mode of communication. Now, at the same time, for people like Wes and I who grew up without internet, I mean, it's a little comical to say you need the internet to live. We used to go to the library and we lived.
I don't think it's that comical. I think a country like Germany is a much more progressive country. It's going to look at what's fair to their own citizens, and the fact is, if someone doesn't have high-speed internet, they're at an economic disadvantage.
Yeah.
Both in looking for a job, researching a job, anything else.
I think I'm stuck on the word essential.
Yeah,
right?
because you think of something that you need in order to survive when you hear the word essential. But it is an essential part of life when you think about it. You don't need it to survive, but if you don't have access to the internet, as Wes pointed out perfectly, you're at a significant disadvantage. Now, let me give you guys a little more context into this story, because it's an interesting case. It involves a man who was cut off from his cable provider and from his DSL provider for a number of months. So he decided to sue that provider because it put him at a significant disadvantage. And this case became a huge issue, and in Germany they basically said, you know what, it is an essential part of life, and as a result he can sue the provider for damages.
But I think he could sue the provider for damages for not providing the service that he needed. So I totally agree with him. Obviously the provider messed up here, but I mean, does he then get to claim an extra amount of money because it's an essential part of life? Okay.
Yes, he does. I don't know the specifics. Originally, the plaintiff was able to sue for 50 euros per day during the period of time that he was unable to access the internet. But now, because of this decision, he will be able to sue for more. However, that amount has not been specified yet.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think that I disagree with that. I go back to, okay, I hear you in terms of a general idea. Yes, it's needed for communication, for openness, for transparency, and et cetera. In that case, I'd say, look, you were owed a service, you didn't get the service, you should be compensated, but I'm not going to give you like extra on top because it's a fundamental, essential right.
I would give him extra on top if he were a programmer from his home and was unable to work.
Right, but again, you could make an economic and financial case for that.
But that's an economic and financial case, not a human rights case.
Not a human rights case.